Today, we are working on Psalm 140. A traditional use for Psalm 140 is to be immune to the effects of lies from others. Also, to be freed from all feelings of hostility. It's also used sometimes to restore tranquility. It's used to restore relationships that are having problems as well, or to maintain relationships so that they don't go rocky. Today we are going to be using this Psalm 140 to overcome hostile forces. The way we work Psalm magic is very simple and extremely effective. You take the psalm in question and you read it out loud all the way through once without stopping. We call this an incantation. Then you take the same psalm and you go back through it and you consider each verse in turn and you search and dig for hidden occult meanings which lie within the psalm. We call these hidden occult meanings magic seeds. And it's by this digging, searching, and applying what we find to our issue that we've brought to the psalm that we are in a very real sense taking those seeds that we discover there and planting them into the deep and fertile ground of our mind, where they in turn take root, they grow, they blossom forth, and then they bear fruit after their kind. And that's exactly what we are going to do together right now, you and I, with Psalm 140. Deliver me, O Lord, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man, which imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually are they gathered together for war. They have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips, Selah. Keep me, O Lord, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from the violent man, who have purposed to overthrow my goings. The proud have hid a snare for me, and cords. They have spread a net by the wayside. They have set gins for me, Selah. I said unto the Lord, Thou art my God. Hear the voice of my supplications, O Lord. O God, the Lord, the strength of my salvation, Thou hast covered my head in the day of battle. Grant not, O Lord, the desires of the wicked. Further not his wicked device, lest they exalt themselves, Selah. As for the head of those that compass me about, let the mischief of their own lips cover them. Let burning coals fall upon them. Let them be cast into the fire, into deep pits, that they rise not up again. Let not an evil speaker be established in the earth. Evil shall hunt the violent man to overthrow him. I know that the Lord will maintain the cause of the afflicted and the right of the poor. Surely the righteous shall give thanks unto thy name. The upright shall dwell in thy presence. When we talk about overcoming hostile forces, the majority of those hostile forces that need to be overcome, no matter what we think, are within ourselves. So if you are familiar with the tarot, the King of Swords is the hostile man in this case. Now, of course, if you've got hostile forces coming from other people, definitely this psalm will take care of that. But as is always the case, we have to work on both at the same time. And the fastest way to achieve results in the physical is by first working on the invisible. And so we are going to look within. Deliver me, O Lord, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man. So the evil man and the violent man are those hostile forces within our very own minds. So if you can think in terms of how are you hostile, how are you evil, how are you violent against yourself, there are so many ways that our own ego mind likes to butt up against our success and to destroy things within ourselves. Some of us are very obvious with our violent tendencies. We get angry, we get upset, we have fits, we have temper tantrums, and others of us don't. We have our inner violence very hidden. And either way, the violence within ourselves is creating effects in our lives, which imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually are they gathered together for war. So that's the ego mind right there. It's relentless. It's programmed to come up against all of our good. Why? Because we set it up that way. We as a human race set it up that way. The only thing that the ego can do is offer us a choice. And it's up to us whether we identify with the ego or we identify with spirit. We get to make our own choices. The ego is not a force outside of us that has any power over us. But the ego does like to offer up for our consideration these ideas of violence against ourselves and against others. And a lot of times we don't think of these decisions as violent. We don't think of ourselves as violent people, but we are. We're very violent people to ourselves. Just think of the ways that you treat yourself, the things that you say to yourself under your breath sometimes. And continually are they gathered together for war. That's the ego. The ego is always ready for battle, always ready to war against the spirit. And that's what we've set it up to do. It's like a computer program that we've programmed. Anything good, make sure that you go up against it. Anytime that we are succeeding, make sure you self-destruct. Make sure you always prove to me how bad I am. Always prove to God how God messed up. Prove to everybody around me how awful I am and how awful they are. That's just how the ego is set up. And the only weapon we have against that ego is our ability to disregard it. They have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. It's a very poisonous force that we have within our minds. And like I said, sometimes this poisonous force shows up as other people coming up against us. But if we rise up within our own minds and we take charge of our own violent tendencies, you'll be surprised how much of those violent tendencies against us are taken care of immediately. And any that don't have anything to do with us are also taken care of when we work this kind of magic. So you're going to be fine as far as overcoming these violent tendencies, even if you don't believe that they're within you. But it's a good idea to take a look anyway. Keep me, O Lord, from the hands of the wicked. Preserve me from the violent man who have purposed to overthrow my goings. It just sets it out there, doesn't it? That's its purpose. That's the ego's purpose, to overthrow your goings. Now, this isn't something you can blame on somebody. This is something that is just our own acceptance. We've fallen asleep in this world and we've just said, okay, to everything that we've been taught by this world. Okay, that's just how things are. And when we come to a psalm like this, the psalm is saying, wake up, look at these violent tendencies that you're just allowing to happen right in your own mind, right under your own nose. Let's just say no to those things. Let's make a new choice. The proud have hid a snare for me and cords. They have spread a net by the wayside. They have set gins for me. A gin in this sense means a trap. They've set a trap for me. They've set nets. They've set traps. And that's what the ego does. The ego tries to trap us. It tries to trick us. That's the only power it has, is trying to be clever. But look at what it says. It's proud. It's arrogant. It's an arrogant idea that somehow I'm not good enough. That's a very arrogant idea. We think that's humble. The ego has us convinced that that's humility. Oh, you're just slime. You're just scum. You're nothing. That's very arrogant. How could that be anything but arrogant when you're basically telling infinite intelligence, when you made me, you really messed up. And look how stupid you are that you could have made something so bad. Any of our own inner violence against ourselves is arrogant. But by the same token, any of our inner violence against other people, resentments, grievances, is also very arrogant, because the ego doesn't care. The ego doesn't care if you are holding grievances against others or yourself. It just cares that you're holding the grievances, because that's its purpose. It's purposed to, as it says, overthrow your goings. So it traps you, or it tries to trap you. But the good news is you are immune to the traps of the ego if you can learn to, what? Disregard it completely. I said unto the Lord, thou art my God. Hear the voice of my supplications, O Lord. Okay, this is finally in the psalm where the psalmist is remembering, oh yeah, there's a way out of this. Before it was just complain, and now it's dawning on the psalmist, oh yeah, I don't have to put up with this. I've got a secret weapon here, and that is to say unto the Lord, thou art my God. That's so powerful. Thou art my God. Now, when we say thou art my God, what are we talking about? We're talking about the one force, the one source, the one power, the one substance in all the universe. There's only one. Nothing can oppose it. Nothing can thwart it. There's nothing that can go up against that force. And since you are a pure extension of that force, nothing can go up against you, save you allow it to be that way. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, that's not true. There's all kinds of stuff that goes up against me that I don't give permission to go up against me. But if you really look deep within you, you're going to notice that you have your hand in some of that too. So today, don't worry about everybody else. Let's just worry about yourself. Let's not worry about, but what about them and what about them and what about them? Let's take this moment to worry about what about me. And once we handle the what about me, notice how few of the what about thems are left when we work this kind of magic. O God, the Lord, the strength of my salvation, thou hast covered my head in the day of battle. So we've got two spheres from the tree of life here. We've got strength, which is sphere 5, and salvation, which is sphere 6. So we're dealing with Mars and the sun, Mars and the solar light. O God, the Lord, the strength of my salvation, thou hast covered my head in the day of battle. So to cover your head in the day of battle is to protect you completely and utterly. You are invincible under the powers of the protection of these forces of infinite intelligence. Grant not, O Lord, the desires of the wicked, further not his wicked device, lest they exalt themselves, Selah. So when your ego tries to exalt itself, how can it do that? By trying to prove to you that you are vulnerable, trying to prove to you that you are not good enough, trying to prove to you that you are faulty, that you are everything other than how you were created to be, everything other than a pure expression and extension of infinite intelligence. So that's how it tries to exalt itself. It tries to make itself bigger than God. But you know that that's not possible, because how can anything be bigger than all that is? And so anything that claims to be bigger than infinite intelligence is literally not there. And so the ego is ultimately not there. And that's why it's so upset, because it doesn't exist. But it's so insane that it can't recognize the fact it's nothing but a construct. It's nothing but a device. It has no intelligence of its own. It's your intelligence that you've decided to use against yourself. Basically, the ego is you making decisions that are against yourself. Deciding against your happiness, deciding against your safety, deciding against your freedom. That's hostility. That's violence. As for the head of those that compass me about, let the mischief of their own lips cover them. Let evil destroy itself. Let all of this just run its course with me safely above it all. God, lift me up above the battleground here and just let all of this work itself out. I don't have to worry about it. And that includes the people in your life that are causing you problems. I don't have to worry about them, right? Because I'm working on myself. I'm going to allow infinite intelligence to lift me above the battleground. They're going to take care of themselves. I don't have to worry about them. It's not my concern. And see, that's why when you're doing any kind of cursing work, ultimately the outcome of all of that is forgiveness. Ultimately, the outcome of all of that is love and compassion toward those people you're cursing, because by the time the whole thing is handled, you realize I'm not vulnerable. They can't hurt me. Poor things. They're just confused. They're really confused. They're really sick. They're going through it. Hurt people, all of that. And so when you move through all of this stuff, you start to have a compassion for those people that have been against you. But that only can happen once you feel safe. That can only happen once your needs are met and you're no longer victimized by them. And the only way you can be no longer victimized by them is if you are no longer allowing yourself to be victimized by you. Let burning coals fall upon them. Let them be cast into the fire, into deep pits, that they rise not up again. So that's a wonderful image for all of these ego thoughts. It looks like we're asking God to rain coals down upon them. No, we're asking that their own coals destroy themselves, and them meaning our ego thoughts, them meaning our own thoughts of self-destruction, our own tendencies towards self-destruction, our own negative thoughts that we have been holding against ourselves for so long. We don't realize how mean we are to ourselves. We don't realize it because the ego doesn't want us to look at that. Because if we really saw, we'd say, I don't want to do that. So we don't really notice it because the ego is our own slyness used against ourselves, our own creativity used against ourselves, right? So once you really take a good, honest look at how you treat yourself, you make a new choice altogether. And that's what today is all about, is making that new choice and allowing those thoughts to have the burning coals fall upon them and be cast into the fire, into deep pits, and not rise up again. Why? Because they don't ultimately exist. You see, because infinite intelligence's thoughts are real thoughts. Our thoughts of ego-ness, our ego thoughts, our arrogant thoughts, those aren't actually thoughts. They're hallucinations, they're ravings, they're rantings, they're insanity, they're a type of sleep, they're a type of nightmare. And so we only want infinite intelligence's thoughts, and we want the nightmare to destroy itself. And that's exactly what we're allowing to have happen right here and right now. Let not an evil speaker be established in the earth. Evil shall hunt the violent man to overthrow him. So evil destroys itself. Evil shall hunt the violent man to overthrow him. So we don't want any evil speaker to be established in the earth. What's an evil speaker? That's the voice in your head that's always convincing you that you're not good enough, they're not good enough, that you're going to be better off if you get upset, that it's better to be right than happy, all of those kinds of things. You know what those ego thoughts are. So those are evil speakers. Now, sometimes our ego speakers, we assign roles to them in the world, and they rise up as people speaking evil against us. That will also be taken care of by this psalm. But ultimately, what we want to do is focus on ourselves today and let all that other stuff take care of itself, which it will. I know that the Lord will maintain the cause of the afflicted and the right of the poor. So in other words, God knows how to handle this, but nothing can happen uninvited. Nothing can happen without our consent. Why? Because we were created free. We are free souls. We have the ability to use our minds freely. That's a gift, but that gift can be misused very easily. So now we are giving permission to infinite intelligence to maintain our cause. And the right of the poor means the poor in spirit. The poor in spirit simply means the idea that I of myself know nothing. It's like the empty rice bowl in Zen Buddhism, or becoming as a little child in Christianity. The poor simply means I am poor and I am willing to be filled up by infinite intelligence. I am willing to be a vessel for infinite intelligence rather than a vessel for my ego. Surely the righteous shall give thanks unto thy name. The upright shall dwell in thy presence. So the righteous means you. You are righteous. That's who you are. You were created that way. And you know you can't undo that. You can give it your best shot, and you can go through even lifetimes after lifetimes of misery and upset to try to prove that you're not righteous. But there is a part of your mind, which is the real part of you, which is safe, secure, happy, at one, at peace, in tranquility. And that's the righteous part of you. So that righteousness can encompass the entirety of your experience if you give thanks to the name of God. How do you give thanks to the name of God? By being grateful for every quality of God. That's what the name of something is in the Psalms, is its nature. So those qualities of God, we have infinite life, infinite soul. You're an expression of purity. You're an expression of infinite intelligence, infinite spirit. You're invincible. Nothing can harm you. Spirit is that which cannot be destroyed, and you are that. Infinite intelligence, you're a genius, like it or not. Yes, you are. You were created that way. Infinite truth, the truth about you will never, ever be able to be dissolved. The truth of who you are is perfect. And nothing and nobody, no matter how they lie, no matter how much the ego tries, can undo the truth of you. Infinite love, you are a creature of pure love. Pure love. The force of love, infinite divine love, perfect love that created you is the only real force in the universe. And so when we allow that love to flow through us as it's intended to, unimpeded, then we can't help but succeed in each and every endeavor. Infinite law. You're under no laws but God's. Infinite intelligence already has the laws set up for you, and those laws are there for your protection. Those laws are there for your safety and for your success. And so we allow the laws of infinite intelligence to work through us. And then there's infinite presence. There's another quality of God that we work with a lot. And that's the idea that infinite intelligence is not just a concept. It's a divine presence. And you can contact that divine presence anytime you want to, just by allowing yourself to be aware of it. So that's how the righteous shall give thanks unto thy name. So you're just going to be grateful for every single quality that you can think of infinite intelligence. And the upright shall dwell in thy presence. You, when you decide to maintain your poise, when you decide to say, I'm a part of the royalty of infinite intelligence, that's who I am. And once you claim that and you get that uprightness in your mind, you recognize that's not arrogant. I'm just claiming my heritage. I'm claiming my birthright. It's arrogant of me to think I'm not that. So when you get that upright feeling, you're going to dwell in the presence of infinite intelligence. Why? Because that's where you already do dwell. It's just that your lack of poise is causing you to forget about it, causing you to fall asleep to it. So now you're going to remind yourself, no, I'm not arrogant, I'm humble, and therefore I have every reason to have a nice straight spine and to feel upright and dwell in the presence of infinite intelligence because it's my birthright. It's my birthright. So just keep coming back to this psalm each and every day until you have a sense of peace and certainty that whatever the situation that you brought to this psalm is resolved. And then once you get that sense of peace and certainty, you know that your spell has taken and you no longer have to cast for that particular thing anymore. You can move on to something else. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. Until next time, blessed be.